Hey guys, welcome back to the Betar Project. I'm your host, Nick Betar. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm very grateful that I'm able to do this every week. Very grateful for today's guest as well. When she first shared her story to me, I was like, I was lost for words. I didn't know that stuff could actually happen and someone could be driven to those limits to, do what she did. But I'm very grateful for her coming on today and wanting to share her story because, it's going to be very raw and deep, and this stuff actually does happen, and it's quite scary to know that it does happen in today's society. So, Lauren, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Um, if you want to kind of give a bit of backstory of who you are.
Um, so obviously my name's Lauren and I'm a 23-year-old girl from Melbourne. Um, I am a bilateral below knee amputee. So what that basically means is I have lost both of my lower legs. In May 2017, I lost my legs in a suicide attempt. I've suffered from treatment resistant depression and PTSD all throughout my teenage years and obviously now into my adulthood. And so I just want to try and get the message out there that it's okay to talk about what you go through and you shouldn't be afraid to speak up.
Exactly. Yeah, I really appreciate you once again, coming on and wanting to share it, because I guess, it takes a lot of courage to share your story on social media and podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, you touched on treatment resistance depression. Do you want to explain what that is?
So pretty much what treatment resistant depression is, it is kind of like major depressive disorder, but it doesn't, the depression doesn't react to, say, therapy or antidepressants or treatments that would normally kind of help people with their depression. So it's either your mood doesn't significantly improve with that kind of treatment, or you just don't respond to that kind of treatment at all. So people with treatment resistant depression normally have to go down alternative pathways. So for me, that's electroconvulsive therapy, which is also known as shock therapy. Um, and there's still a lot of stigma around that kind of treatment, generally speaking, because it's still so misunderstood. But this procedure is performed in a safe and effective manner, and it actually does help quite a lot of people with treatment resistant depression. So yeah.
How did that work with you? Did you respond well to it?
Yeah, it's the only thing that has worked for me out of all the treatments I've had for depression. So pretty much I've been on every antidepressant on the market and mood stabilizers and pretty much the whole combination of everything. And I didn't really get better with any of it, but with electroconvulsive therapy, it's literally saved my life and has probably got me out of some really life-threatening situations mentally.
Mm. I love that you mentioned shock therapy, because I've seen a bit on it, and as you said, there's a bit of a stigma that people don't go that path. They're more just the normal path
Yeah,
of antidepressants, stuff like that. But shock therapy and also like psychedelics, like magic mushrooms and stuff like that. I've seen
yeah,
research about that on depression. And have you gone
yeah.
down that path as well, or just shock therapy?
Um, just shock therapy at the moment, but speaking about that, my psychiatrist yesterday is actually looking at um, ketamine for my depression, but because it's so new, like in medical terms, um, it's still hard to get onto it and for patients to be able to receive it because it's just opening up a whole other world of treatment and they're still learning about it. So
I guess that route of shock therapy, psychedelics, and it's more of a natural path as well, which I think
Yeah,
it is better for the human instead of chucking down antidepressants down your throat every day,
yeah. Well, I'd still do take antidepressants every day, but I kind of need the ECT to um, just get me at a more functioning level. Yeah.
Do you believe antidepressants kind of numb you and make you, I guess, not feel like you at any time? Because I've heard a lot about that, antidepressants kind of make the person not feel who they are. It kind of numbs them.
Yes and no. I think it depends on the person and what medication they're on. I do know that some doctors do like to prescribe quite a lot of medications and over medicate people. So that can definitely affect them and cause like lots of side effects. But I also have met people that do respond really well for or to certain antidepressants. And I think it's so individualized. Like there's no this medication is going to work for everyone. It's just everyone is so different with um, the type of treatment they're going to receive and what's going to work for them. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, exactly. And how hard is it to actually find a good doctor? Some doctors will just don't care. They just prescribe you everything on the list. And some will actually look into it. And as you said, new lines of therapy, like shock therapy and that, like they're more open minded. How do you feel
Yeah,
about finding good doctors?
it definitely isn't easy to find a good psychiatrist. I, for one, have had my fair share of really, really, really shit ones, to be completely honest. And I think that with some psychiatrists, some people might find them good, but other people might not click with them or just have that kind of connection that's really needed to be able to work together in an effective way. So I think it really depends on what fits for you. There's no, this psychiatrist is really good, so it's going to work for you. You just got to keep looking around and find what's going to fit best for you personality wise, and um, to find someone that just is always working with you and genuinely wants the best outcome.
Yeah. So the most important thing is, being able to build that connection with that psychiatrist.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Let's backtrack a bit to what was your childhood like? Because obviously all this stems from somewhere. What was your childhood good or?
Um, I did have trauma in my childhood. Um, and I did experience bullying in primary school and high school too. So that obviously affected me, but there's also a genetic predisposition to mental illness in my family. So lots of my family members have experienced like years of depression and bipolar and stuff like that. So it's I always say to people, when you've experienced trauma, but you also have like a genetic predisposition to mental illnesses, you're pretty much stuffed. But yeah,
Mm. So childhood trauma of being bullying, and then obviously it runs in your family didn't also help the situation. Um, when did it start getting like really bad for you?
I think I was definitely experiencing depressive episodes from year 7 and 8, but in year 9 and 10, it got really, really bad for me. I would not be able to go to school or get out of bed. I would be constantly at the time self-harming. I spiraled down um, kind of out of control with an eating disorder and became severely underweight. And I remember, I think I was only 15 at the time, and I saw a psychologist, and she instantly just looked at me and said to me, "You need to get into hospital right now." And she goes, "If you don't go, then we will make you go to hospital." So I went into hospital and received treatment for depression and anorexia at the time. And ever since then, it's kind of been every single time I've been in a really bad depressive episode, I've had to go in and out of hospital for it.
And what's your experience been like in hospital? Obviously, no one likes going to hospital. It's not the
No, no,
prettiest place.
no. I've had some nurses and people I've met in there who have been nothing short of amazing towards me, but I've also had some extremely traumatizing times being in a psych ward too.
Mm.
Yeah.
How do they treat depression in the hospital? Is it giving you pills, or what does it involve?
Pretty much medication, sometimes therapy for some people, sometimes, once again, ECT. It just really depends on the person and whether they're responding well to, the treatment that they're receiving. So,
And
yeah,
let's let's go to 2000, was it May 2017 when I guess your life really did
yeah,
change?
yeah,
You want to kind of tell the story, because I know you shared
yeah.
that with me about, going to see a psychiatrist and how all that went down and obviously led to what happened. Do you want to share that?
Yeah. I was really, really struggling for months beforehand. And at the time, I was misdiagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So basically, with borderline personality disorder, they don't believe that medication is the treatment for it. They believe that therapy is solely like the treatment for it. Um, And I remember just being so depressed, and I was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I remember going to see the psychiatrist I was seeing at the time, the morning of, and I just collapsed in front of her, and I just started shaking like uncontrollably, because I knew something was like really genuinely wrong, and I knew that something was about to happen. And I don't know whether it was because maybe I had that minuscule tiny bit of hope left inside of me that I said to them, you need to do something right now. I'm genuinely really suicidal. I'm about to take my life. And I remember they just sent me home, and there was absolutely no treatment involved. So I went home just feeling the absolute worst I ever had in my life mentally. And I just thought to myself, if not even a psychiatrist cares, then, what do I have to live for? I was already extremely unwell and suicidal, but that just really tipped me over the edge. I remember leaving my phone at home and just going out of the house straight down to the train tracks. And my mum, I didn't tell her where I was going or anything. It was just purely like a mother's gut instinct followed me down there. And at the time, I was totally oblivious to the fact that she had done that. And she called my dad, who is a police officer, and they called the police, and the police were looking for me. And I heard them calling out my name several times. Lauren, 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 you need to come to us now. And I was just like, no, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be around anymore. And the trains were fully stopped because mum just knew that I was there just out of her pure gut instinct. And I didn't come. And then all of a sudden, somebody started the trains up again. And I remember just standing in the middle of the tracks, and the train was full speed coming towards me, and I just stood there and got hit by the train. I think I flew about 40 meters in the air and got caught underneath the train, and my left leg was completely cut off in half at the scene. I remember like a big crunch in my back. I fractured my back, and I remember my right foot just being completely munted. And I also remember my mum actually seeing that happen, and the screams from my mum, and it's just something that I'll never ever be able to forget. And then my dad came racing from work, and before I got completely knocked out of consciousness, I just remember my dad holding on to me, hysterically crying on my chest, saying, "You need to hold on for me. You need to hold on for me." And then from there on in, the only thing I remember is waking up from the induced coma.
Wow, that's quite emotional and a very traumatic experience for both you and your family.
Yeah.
You hear stories of this happening, but you don't quite believe it, do you? Until
No.
like the other day, sadly, there's a bridge near my house, and someone jumped off it. So it's happening all the time, and it's very sad that someone's driven to the point where they believe the best option for them is to try and end their life.
Mm.
And I can see it's bringing up a lot of emotion in you, talking about it and thinking about the day that it happened.
Mm.
And once again, I'm going to say, thank you for sharing that and opening it up. It really means a lot to me and the listeners. Um,
Yeah.
when you
It's
work,
still, sorry, you
go
go.
on. No, that's all right. You go.
It's still so just, yeah, misunderstood in society. And I think a lot of people don't understand it. Like, unless you go through it, I think you don't really understand it that much. Like, you understand it sometimes, but not in the way that you would if you experienced it yourself.
Mm. It's kind of hard for me to comprehend how, you're standing on the tracks and you see a train coming toward you, and you just stand still, like you're not urged to, try and get out of the way. You're just that determined that this is what needs to happen, that you just stand still. It's crazy.
Mm.
Um, when you woke up in hospital, what was that like? Did you think it was a dream?
I remember the first thing I said when I woke up from that coma was, "Where's my legs?" And I remember mum trying to console me, say, it's okay, kind of thing. It did feel like a dream because realistically, you don't get struck by a train and expect to survive.
Mm,
And here I was, obviously with my leg, well, at the time my left leg amputated and my right foot amputated. Um, but I had no brain injury or anything like that. And I remember being told that, it's unheard of that somebody comes out of this incident alive, let alone without a brain injury. So it kind of felt surreal, and it was really conflicting because a part of me was like, okay, like obviously I survived for a reason, it's my time to try and turn my life around and prove people wrong. But I was still in that mindset. And I think being stuck in that headspace was really, really, really confusing because you want to live, but then every part of you wants to die at the same time. And you just like, what do I do and where do I go from here, kind of thing.
I love that you say that, it was kind of a sign that you needed to change your life around. Did you also have I guess the feeling of like failure because you kind of failed to take your own life?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Um, Apparently, I was in the 1% of people that survived this incident. And I was, I survived without a brain injury. And I was just like, why is this happening to me? Because I was obviously still very, very depressed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're here today, like honestly getting hit by a train and surviving. As you said, less than 1% chance. It's amazing. And obviously
Mm.
meant that, you're meant to survive and you're meant to share the story that you are today. Um, so what was next? Because you ended up losing your other leg. So you want to kind of touch on that?
Yeah, so with my right leg, I initially just lost my right foot. But about a month later, I had a staph infection in that leg. So basically, that whole leg became necrotic, which means it died off on me, and they needed to amputate that one too. Yeah.
What was the feeling like knowing that you've survived, but now you have no legs?
Um, it was definitely hard to wrap my head around it. I was 19 at the time, and I just remember thinking, what are my family going to see me as ugly? Are my friends going to see me as ugly? I'm 19. All my friends have legs, and I'm just here. I have no legs, and I can't really like elaborate on how it felt, but it was just really hard. Yeah.
Um, how did your family take it? Obviously, it would have been really tough on them.
Yeah. Um, Hello.
Yeah, there we go.
Um, yeah, it was definitely not easy for them. But at the same time, they have been my absolute biggest supporters and my rock through absolute everything. Um, so we kind of all knew that it was a battle that we'd all have to face together, and it wasn't going to be something that will be fixed overnight. I mean, every day I'm still facing the repercussions of what's happened, but I think when you have a really close, tight knit kind of family, everything that comes your way is kind of done together. So it makes it just a little bit easier knowing that you're not alone in the journey that, was yet to come and is still yet to come. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the whole rehabilitation process, that would probably be your biggest battle. Well, I believe so.
Yeah.
People people take their legs really for granted that we get to walk, we get to run, and then when you lose them, and then we're obviously going to touch on prosthetic legs, and
Yeah.
it's not as easy to walk with them, isn't it?
No, no.
Um,
It
how long until rehab kind of started for you?
For me, I think it was about 4 to 5 months, only because I had lots of complications along the way. Um, so I think I got fitted in my first prosthetic leg about 6, 7 months later. Yeah.
And what's the process of actually making a custom prosthetic leg for you? Because they have to get it spot on, don't they?
Yeah, they have to get it pretty much to the millimeter spot on. So they pretty much have, with the casting of the actual prosthetic leg, they have to kind of wrap your whole stump up in glad wrap, and then they put like a bandage around your stump, which will turn into plaster. And then they have to draw like, well, in my case, because I'm a below knee amputee, around the kneecap and stuff like that, where pretty much like where the kneecap is going to sit in the prosthetic, and where the bottom of your stump is going to sit in the prosthetic. So yeah, they have to really kind of delve into all the little details of it. Otherwise, doesn't really work out.
Yeah. Your camera. Oh, camera's back. I was just about to say it turned off. What setbacks have you had in rehab? Obviously, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No, no. I It's been an absolute nightmare, if I'm going to be completely honest, with fitting prosthetic legs, because especially with my left prosthetic leg, because there's lots of skin grafting and everything like that. It's so fragile. So we've had to experiment and do all these different things on the prosthetic leg, to be able to get it fitting okay, and for it to be able to work okay without all the skin grafts like breaking down and stuff all the time. So I think in 3.5, nearly 4 years, I think I've gone through about 7 or 8 different prosthetic legs already, just because, they haven't been able to fit properly, or my stump has changed so quickly. So they've had to make a new one, and yeah.
It's a long process. And what's your prosthetic legs like now? Are they fine?
My left one's okay, but I'm getting my right one remade as we speak. Yeah.
God, it's always a procedure, isn't it? Back and
Yeah, it is.
by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Never ending.
Yeah. How long did it take you to take your first steps?
About 9 or 10 months, only because of the skin grafting on my left stump was so fragile that we had to really be careful with the wounds and stuff like that. Yeah.
You obviously would have had some really bad days. Did you have any thoughts of just giving up?
Yeah, for sure.
And when you had those thoughts, what made you, guess, turn around and be like, I got to keep going?
Um, in a strange way, it was just like people, and especially some doctors, who said I'd never be able to do anything again. And well, in terms of walking and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm a very stubborn person, sometimes not in a good way, but I was like, nah, like stuff this kind of thing. I've got to prove them wrong. And I just, even when I wanted to give up, I put any type of energy I had into just being, just working on being able to prove them wrong. Yeah.
I love that mindset, honestly. You have to have that mindset to get through basically anything in life. Just be positive and be like, because people are always going to put you down and say you can't do anything, but
Yeah.
just fuck them, and show them what you can actually do. And you have been doing that, which has been amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And also you got your support network of your family, which has been very helpful for you. You obviously got a team of physios and all that helping you with your rehab too. And you touched on the rehab for shock therapy and that. What other rehabs do you need to go through?
Um, just like with occupational therapy and stuff, just trying to be able to do little things that wouldn't seem like much of a task for most people, but just being able to kind of relearn how to do things that probably doesn't make any sense, but like,
Go
yeah.
on. I guess rehab would be very taxing, but how do you kind of keep healthy and try and, be fit?
I definitely don't feel healthy or fit,
Yeah.
but pretty much just with the physiotherapy and stuff like that, people think that you just get up and stand and you walk again on prosthetic legs, but you've actually got to keep working at your upper body strength. So you're assigned, different exercises and all of that kind of stuff to be able to maintain, that strength in your body to hold the prosthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be a full body workout, really, trying to stand up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess that's your exercise in a way, and it's working all your muscles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Obviously, you're here today spreading your story. What made you want to start sharing it on, social media? Because that's a big leap. The internet,
Yeah.
people are going to judge you, and it's a crazy place to be sometimes.
Sure is. I think for me, the reason why I wanted to start sharing my story, especially on social media, is because I know when I've been in really dark mindsets and I've experienced my darkest of times, I've um, kind of needed that little bit of hope, um, you know, kind of thing. And even if I couldn't have hope for myself at the time, I could see other people's stories and other people's experiences and what they go through and what they've had to go through. And that, I always used to think, holy shit, like they're still here today after everything they've gone through. Maybe I can do that too. And that's given me at those times that little bit of faith and inspiration to just keep going. And I know that I definitely needed a story that I could relate to, um, and really be inspired by. So the reason why I started sharing my story is in hope that maybe my story could try and save someone's life.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I love that you are sharing it. What's your feedback been on, like? Because what I've seen is a lot of positivity and support. I'm sure
Um,
you're gonna get some negative comments from some keyboard warrior.
yeah, yeah. Most of it has been positive. Sometimes I get really nervous that maybe people don't want to hear about it and stuff like that. But then when I do feel that way, I always think, nah, stuff that, maybe someone does need to hear this. So I do it for, that minority of people, maybe. Um, but yeah, there's definitely been, in polite terms, some complete dickheads
Mm,
on social media about it. But you've just got to realize that, you're not sharing your story for people like them. You're sharing your story to genuinely try and help other people, and it's not your fault if they want to react like that.
100% agree. Has it helped you find people that are in similar situations to you as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
And be able to build
Yeah.
that little community where you can all, help each other. And if someone's down, you can talk to the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one, I guess, positive about social media is that, you can find like-minded people and you don't feel alone.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, as we mentioned before, I was scrolling through your Instagram. Some of the stuff you post, first time getting up off the floor, people would look at that and be like, "Oh, getting up off the floor," but that would have been a massive challenge for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy balancing on two prosthetic legs as it is, let alone lifting yourself off the floor. You know, it might not seem like much for people that actually do still have their legs because, you do it all the time. But with the prosthetic legs too, you can't bend them, and there's no muscles or anything like that. So you don't have that kind of flexibility to be able just to, get up.
Mm. Did
Mm.
did you fracture one of your stumps or something?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
How'd you manage that?
Um, Ironically, I was on my way to a prosthetics appointment, and one of my best friends, Caitlin, um, offered to take me, and I was like, okay, we're running a bit early, and we're about to go in and get a coffee from the local cafe, and I don't think my right prosthetic was on properly, and I started walking with my crutches, and I just went for 6 and slid and fell into the gutter. And I don't know how I managed to do it, but I fractured my left stump kind of in the fibula bone, so upper leg kind of thing. And yeah, so I wasn't able to even wait there on a prosthetic for 6 to 8 weeks.
God. How has being amputee affected your social life?
It does make it harder to be able to go places sometimes, because even today, in today's like society, there's still a lot of places that don't have proper accessibility, um, and there's still a lot of places that make it very difficult to get into. And even if I can get into it, it takes so much more effort just being able to, say, walk up 5 stairs and get to places. So if my friends have gone out, on a night out or whatever, sometimes I wish I was able to go, but I also know that if we were in the city or something like that, there's no way I'd be able to walk up, you know, all those stairs and back down again, especially with alcohol in my system. So
Yeah. How does that affect you mentally? Because obviously it'd be upsetting seeing your friends going out and you can't join them.
um it does get hard sometimes, and it's not that, I'm not happy for them. Like, it makes me so happy seeing them smiling and enjoying their lives and enjoying themselves. But at the same time, you can't help but kind of grieve what you wish you could have and what you wish you could have had.
Mm.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the hardest bit of your whole journey? Like the night it happened or waking up to see that, you've lost your leg or learning to walk again. What would you say has been the hardest bit of it all?
I would say that there has been no individual like hard bit.
Yeah.
It's all been collective. Um, I think the hardest part of all of this is knowing that I was only 19 at the time, um, and I had plans, to study and travel and work and stuff like that. And for me personally, the hardest bit is knowing that, mental illnesses don't discriminate and it can affect anyone. Um, and it affected me, obviously, from a young age, but I was only 19, and seeing everyone being able to party and travel and work really, really, I'm not a jealous person, but it made me really angry that I wasn't able to do that. And I still do kind of crave that lifestyle, but I also do know that I have to be able to be well and work on myself fully to do all of that. And I think that when that day does happen, it will make everything so much more rewarding.
Mm. And on that, do you have any regrets or you believe everything, happened for a reason?
I wouldn't say regrets. I just wish there was a cure for mental illness.
Mm. Well, I love that, most people would have, played victim and let what happened ruin their life. And I love that you've gone the other direction with, positivity and self-love and kind of accepting what happened and trying to move on and better your life. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Um, what piece of advice would you give someone that's going through, mental illness or someone that's an amputee?
Um, my piece of advice for someone going through, well, for first mental illnesses, is that you shouldn't be afraid to speak up about how you're feeling, and you shouldn't be afraid to kind of stop sharing how you're feeling just because of the minority of people in society who still genuinely believe that, it's attention seeking to speak up about it, and all of that kind of stuff. You should speak about it. We do need to speak about it, because the more we can speak about it, the more understanding people will have, and maybe that will lead to better access of treatment for everyone in the whole mental health care system. Um, I also would say that if you're not getting the treatment you think you need or you deserve, you don't settle for, what they're giving you. You keep fighting and advocating for yourself, or if you can't advocate for yourself, get someone else to advocate for you. And just keep looking for answers, and just keep looking for someone who is willing to give you that help you need, because it is out there. But unfortunately, the mental health system is still so flawed, that a lot of people actually don't still receive the medical attention and care they need during their darkest of times. But all I can say is just keep going and keep searching for answers, and just don't give up until you get what you need, because it is out there. And yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And that's why I started this podcast to, start crushing the stigma around mental health and other topics like that. And so people are not feeling alone, like they're the only one that goes through it, because it
Yeah,
happens to so many people and it's
because,
every day and something's happening. Um, and we need to start, sharing people's stories and
yeah,
getting help for people and education around these topics and
yeah,
crushing these stigmas, because it's absolute bullshit that there is stigma around mental health to start with.
yeah,
What would you say is, obviously your perspective of life has probably changed now. You're probably more grateful for life and you're not taking it for granted.
yeah.
What's your why?
Pardon?
Your why, like your why for life.
Um, I think that for me, it's always kind of the possibility and the thought of what if. So if I'm in a really bad depressive episode, or I'm having a really bad day, and I just think, nah, fuck this, all, I don't want to do this. I think, what if, like, I wasn't experiencing this one day, and what if, one day there is a cure for depression, and what if um, one day, we can actually properly eradicate the whole stigma surrounding mental illness. And I think that holding on to that what if during really dark times kind of keeps me going, because I think there's endless amounts of possibilities that could come. And I think as long as you have that what if, then you still have that bit of hope. And even if it's just a little bit of hope, then I think you can work on it and try and make the most out of it.
I love that you touched on that. I was actually reading my book this morning and was talking about hope. And it said basically, if you don't have hope in your life, what's the point of living really?
Mm.
So what's the goals for you now? Obviously, you're fully focused on your rehab. After that, do you have bigger goals, to study or?
I want to one day either open up my own prosthetic center and start making prosthetic legs for amputees and teach them how to walk again. Obviously making prosthetic legs that are more like human legs, that are more comfortable and more logical and practical. But at the same time, I've always wanted to open up my own center for women and children with trauma, so they can come in and they can be emerged in a safe place and have that care, love, and kind of understanding that you definitely need after experiencing a traumatic event. And I hope, maybe one day I could open up a center where it's a safe place for people to come in without the judgment.
They're great goals to have, and you're going to reach them if you keep going, you keep working hard, and you're well on the path of doing that now.
Oh, thank you.
Last few questions. What's your definition of success?
I know for a lot of people, the definition of success is working hard and having a lot of money and having a really kind of enriched lifestyle with money. But for me, success is pretty much just sometimes the littlest of things. Like if you feel like you can't get out of bed, but you got out of bed on a day where you feel really shit, then that that's an achievement and that's success. And if you feel like you can't do anything on specific days, but you're able to get up and have a shower, then to me that's success. So overall, I would say that success isn't money and everything like that. To me, success is the little wins combined, and collectively success would also have to be genuinely being happy within yourself and genuinely having a loving, supportive friendship group and family, and having ones that, or having people around you that support one another and lift you up, because I know that's very rare and hard to find.
Exactly, 100% agree with you on that. Last question. When your time's up on this earth, what would you like to be remembered for?
I think I would like to be remembered for always trying to advocate and help other people, but also being empathetic and trying to genuinely connect and understand people through their life experiences and trying to help them through that.
Awesome. I guess we'll wrap up the episode there. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Lauren, for coming on and sharing your story. I'm super grateful for you.
thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, honestly. And to all the listeners out there too, if you're going through mental health, you reach out to, myself or Lauren, we're always happy to talk, or reach out to family members. You're not alone on this. This is why I do the podcast, crush stigma around mental health and other topics. So I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Once again, Lauren, appreciate you. This has been episode 57 of the Betar Project. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.